Well, I'm here in Texas, Davy Crockett National Forest, the bushcrafting capital of the world. And while I was out here, I wanted to show off this bag that I made. So I just recently started working with leather and then kind of gravitated into wax canvas. And I've seen a lot of really beautiful bags by Frost River and Duluth Trading Company. A lot of handmade ones by Hidden Woodsman, and so I thought I'd give it a shot. So this is my first foray into making a bag, and really kind of one of my first forays into doing anything with wax canvas. So this is roughly modeled off the Frost River Isle Royale Bushcraft bag, although not quite as beefy. But let me just kind of walk you through some of the features. So it's about 20 inches tall. It's about 14 inches wide. It's got a couple pockets here on the side. They are each 4 inches wide, and they can fit. So you can see I've got my giant 50-ounce Camelback here. There's no potable water on this area of the forest I'm in, on the 4C trail, so I had to bring 2 of these, unfortunately. But you can fit a lot in here. I've actually got a saw on the other side. They are wide enough to fit a Trek 900, a Snow Peak Trek 900, a Bush Buddy, and originally I was going to put flaps over top of them, but I thought that would kind of limit what you could put in terms of sticking them up. But much like one of the Frost River bags, actually, when you don't have anything in here, they can kind of stick out. And rather than doing buttons, which is what they did, which I actually think is pretty nifty, I actually put, I'm going to do some close-ups here, but I actually just put some eyelets in here and a piece of leather, and that cinches this up. And so this kind of folds out of the way when you don't need it, but it also cinches up really nicely when you put something in there. Again, like some other bags, I've always thought that the idea of having a pocket that had an open back was a sweet idea, so that's exactly what I did. So this actually, this got my Gransford Brook axe here, slides through the back of this pocket and out the bottom, and still fits the big water bottle here just fine. Exact same thing on the other side. I've got my saw in here. I made this wax canvas bag. This is actually the first thing I made in wax canvas. It took about 18 seconds, but it keeps my saw, which has sharp edges, from cutting things up. But again, same thing. And if you have something kind of small and thin in here, this cinch works really nicely to keep this in place. All this stuff behind me came in this bag when I hiked in here. But I just kind of stuffed it with some stuff unceremoniously to show you the way it fills out. But just buckles here, and again, this cinches closed. And rather than having a zipper, and some bags have the pieces that fold over, I really like this because you can fill it all the way up. So this is actually pretty full. This has got my blanket and various assorted other, a second tarp which I didn't need. Just a little baby pillow, a bunch of stuff in here. And so if you fill it up completely, like I did on my way here, you can use every last inch of this and still get a little bit of closure, and then flat kind of comes right over. But if you are not filling it completely, then the cinch also works really nicely to close it. It shuts like that. Flap comes over, tightens down, easy peasy. So all of these straps are handmade by me. They are a combination of 6-7 ounce leather, and that's mostly 6-7. a couple bits of 8/9, but I wanted something that was nice and beefy, but that was also flexible, that would kind of bend with age. There's also rivets, copper rivets in every connection point. So on the buckles, on the straps, on where the buckles meet the bag, there are rivets. And in fact, I think I'll be able to show you here. Every point where there's a rivet on the front or on the back or outside of the bag, there's rivets on the inside. So let me show you the back here. So one of the things that I thought was really sweet about some of the Frost River bags is the beautiful buckskin that they use on some of the upgraded versions of the straps for their bags. So so this is also 6/7 leather, the straps, and then the straps that go into the buckles. And then I actually saddle stitch this deer skin onto the back, and it's just got a couple pieces of padding in here that my genius quilter wife turned me on to. In fact, most of the things that I know about how to sew, she taught me, because she's amazing. I tried a lot of different things to get this this buckskin on here. I have an industrial machine that I did most of this work with, but I found that because this leather kind of binds and stretches, it can be kind of hard to work with, so I ended up just kind of doing it by hand. So this is all hand saddle stitch, and then, as you can see here, riveted, so you can't see all of it, but these are actually riveted. They have copper rivets through the back, and then this piece of leather is riveted to the bag, and then 3 rivets on either side and in the middle to hold this really securely. And so you can see on the inside, it's pretty significantly riveted. It makes it kind of a heavy bag between the wax canvas and all the rivets, but it's kind of what you want, right, when you're out in the woods, and you know, you don't want something that's going to rip or it's going to get wet easily. All brass eyelets here for the cinching, and again, you can see here, I kind of was lazy here on this one and didn't dye this one, but every rivet point on the front where rivet goes through leather and then wax canvas, there's then also leather on the back side, so it doesn't put too much stress, or really any stress at all, on the material. And then and finally, a groovy feature here on the bottom. Again, I think it's important that you can put a pack down flat when you need to get stuff in and out of it, whether you're packing it, whether you're out camping. So I made a flat bottom here and then added these leather, whatever you call these, for putting straps through. I actually will make much cooler, fancier leather straps, but I was kind of in a pinch. It was coming out early today, so I just grabbed these guys, but just 1 inch wide, so you can put any kind of strap through here, and then just gives you that much more room to put stuff. These are also saddle stitched on by hand. I could have done these, I think, with my machine, but I wanted to make sure that they were really strong, so I actually saddle stitched these by hand, and these also on the inside. So this is actually 8/9 leather, so it's really thick, and on the back side there's a matching piece. So even with the saddle stitching, even though it's not rivets, the saddle stitching goes through this leather, through the canvas, and then through another piece of leather on the back side. So again, it doesn't put any real stress on the bag at all. Let's see here, let me pull my axe out. And then I've got this giant pocket on the front. Extra socks. This is not a loadout video because I'm probably underprepared or overprepared, so kind of ignore all my junk, but it does have a nice size pocket in the front. That again, it's about 2 inches deep. Got a nice beefy zipper. And one of the things that I did do on purpose is you'll notice that this zipper actually goes around the side. And so it opens up a little bit. So a lot of these bags, not throwing shade at all, bags made by the pros are incredible. But you know, when you've got a pouch on the front like this, it's got the zipper that just closes just to the front. Then you're kind of having to wedge things into the material, especially if the zipper's a little bit further down, whereas this, since it opens around the corner, kind of becomes a little bit of a lid without actually having to have an extra flap. So kind of a groovy feature there. And again, if that's not full, it just smashes up against the bag. So there you go, my first bag. I'm pretty psyched. I walked in here, it was only about a mile, but it's very comfortable. I absolutely, completely filled it. I can't tell you how much it weighed when I filled it, but it had my hammock, my tarp, all my cooking stuff, a book or two, all my, you know, typical bushcrafting stuff. I think, you know, those of you out there who do this a lot would say that this is a day pack. This is definitely a day pack. I think you could do an overnight with it. In fact, I overpacked with this. I brought my underquilt. I'm not staying the night, but I was just kind of practicing. So I brought my underquilt for my hammock and an extra blanket and an extra tarp, and it was absolutely full. But I think if you were a ground dweller and you weren't doing the hammock thing, you could easily get, especially a down sleeping bag and a compression sack, cinch down small, easily in here, or put it underneath the bag with the straps, and still have plenty of room for food, at least for, you know, a day and a breakfast the next day. If you didn't have to bring in all of your water and you could actually get water and boil it or filter it, you wouldn't have to use both of these like I did for water. So I think you could do it a solid day, maybe 2 days. If you were super bushcrafty and you were sleeping on the ground and all that stuff. I'm more of a hammock guy, so I tend to have a little bit more gear, but even so, I think you could get away with it. So anyway, that's my bag. I'm gonna make more. I'll probably make a bigger one that's for a few days longer, and just experiment with a few different things. So you know, if there's anything that you see and you're like, hey, that sucks, why'd you do it that way? Or, hey, that's cool, did you try this? Let me know. I'd certainly be down for any opinions, but you know, for my first effort, I am not unhappy with it. So there you go.